So the second church that I've visited here in Sydney is Village Church, Annandale. For those of you who watch Clayton TV regularly, you'll know that each week we broadcast their sermons, and on our Facebook page it auto broadcasts their live streams. Now, it was really great to visit them. I think mainly because all you see is as much as you see of me currently, really, and so it's great to actually look in a building and have a look around and see what they do. There were loads of things that I think we can learn for JPC. There were loads of things that I think wouldn't necessarily work for us, but I think are really good. So went to the morning and the evening service. In the morning, I went along and just as a punter really, and had a bit of a look round. So I sat with Kathy, who's Dominic Steele's wife, and absorbed what it was like to be there. They have the same sermon morning and evening, so that meant I could go and sit at the feet of the cross and learn from God's word in the morning, and then in the evening I could have a bit more of a look at the technical things, etc, etc. So the first thing I noticed when I arrived is that everyone signs in. I wondered if this was a COVID thing, but they said not. They said it's something they've done for a long time. And actually it was really good. I don't know whether it would work back at home, but everyone signed in. It meant that you knew who was there. You could look back at attendance of services and see if there's anyone who you need to chase up or check they're doing okay because you've not seen them for a few weeks. And you got a name tag, which for me was brilliant because I'm useless at names. And it meant that all these new people had their name on. I could learn them a bit easier rather than being introduced, and someone's like, oh, hi, this is my friend Etty. And then they're like, Etty, this is my friend Bill. And then you have no recollection of what their name was as soon as you start talking to them. Having them on, for me, that was fantastic. Everyone does that each week. Yeah, I really found that really helpful. I think I wonder if sometimes when we have sort of welcome cards and you say, if you want to find out more, fill this in, if people don't because they're like the odd one out, whereas if everyone is going in at the beginning of the service, putting their details in the QR code on the app and getting their name printed off, well, everyone's doing it, so it's a less weird thing to do as a newcomer. I don't know. I found it great, but I don't know whether it would depend how big the church is as well. Like if everyone turned up at JPC at like 28 minutes past 6 and the service starts at past and everyone had to do that, it would be carnage. So yeah, I don't know whether that depends on the size of the church you've got, but it worked really well there and I found it really helpful. And the other thing that was really helpful was getting to know people. Everyone was so friendly and really interested, even if they hadn't heard I was coming. And yeah, that was really nice. I got to chat to loads of different members of the congregation. So that was the morning, and then I came back in the evening and with more of a focus to look at their tech, what can we learn, etc, because the sermons are the same as I think I might have said. And so it wasn't that I was then not being fed that day, so I was able to come back and have a look around, and that was really good. The service was structurally the same but had a very different feel. I think probably because the demographic of those that were there, the evening service was much more sort of youth up to sort of 30s kind of age group, whereas the morning service is much more family orientated, as you would imagine, because it's easier to get kids out in the morning than it is when you're running into bedtime at the end of services and things. And I had a great look at their tech. I was able to chat to their 2 tech guys that were on and see what they do, and that was really helpful. I was able to look at all that tech, and those pictures are here. They had a similar setup to us with sort of Pro Presenter, which is a software I've come across. I'm sure you've heard in these vlogs loads. And what was really cool is that they have a lighting system able to run a macro in Pro Presenter. So when they click onto video, they set up a macro that also dims the lighting system in the church, and that was really cool. I think the lighting wise, I was really struck. So they've got a lighting bar at the front, but their main auditorium lighting is festoon lighting, like we have at JPC outside, and it was really effective. It made it feel really informal, but also it lit it really well, and they were able to put the levels up and down. Another thing that was really cool about that lighting and a lot of the electrical stuff there at Village is that they've got them all on Google Home plug sockets, smart plug sockets, which means that they can also check when they get home that everything's been turned off. And I think that's something I want to think about, whether we can simplify the setup actually at JPC using that kind of thing, whether that could mean that we can turn everything on much quicker. That would make things easier for the team. So yeah, smart plugs and Google Home is a big thing I want to think through when I get back to the office. How can we use that like they do to simplify setup and simplify things, make sure things have been properly turned off when they get home, those kind of things. That was really exciting. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, that was brilliant. And I think could be really useful at JPC. So it was just so fantastic to see all of that, to see the main church auditorium, how that works, the breakout space, how that works. I was just really impressed. And again, like in that video about Moore College, really excited to be there, somewhere that you've heard about a lot, somewhere that I've broadcast and advertised a lot through Clayton TV. To actually be in that space was really exciting for me, and I really enjoyed that. And then after that evening service, there was something that again I think was fantastic and really, really helpful. So at a lot of churches in Australia, including Village Church, they use the 5 M's model, which means there's a pastor for evangelism, or a pastor for discipleship, and a pastor for services, and a pastor for etc, 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 which I guess is similar to what it's very different to the this congregation has a pastor, this congregation has a pastor, this congregation has a pastor, which I've also seen, and it's been really good for me to see the benefits of both of those. I think often it can feel like we're all running in 6 different directions. Sorry, my light battery's just died, but we'll have to cope. And we're all doing our different ministries, and they all pull apart, sort of, you know, if it's the same church as my hand, it sort of all pulls apart, which has been really good to see this sort of M's model. And they also build on teams, not rosters, which I found super helpful as well, actually. How can we make people a team? And that's not necessarily my cameras team. You know, how can I make my cameras team feel like a team, which is what I've been wanting to work towards when I get back. Or how can the music group feel like a team? Actually, it's how can, you know, they have team A, team B, team C, and team A is band A, it's tech team A, it's preacher A, it's leader A, etc, etc. And I was really struck by that model, and I think that will be really beneficial to what we do actually at JPC, and it's something that I want to take back and talk to Ollie Nicholson about, how we can do that. I think I've seen a lot of, while we've been away, how the tech and the music actually really need to work together as one team, and otherwise they again are pulling apart in different directions. And so I'm keen to see how we can do that with Ollie and how we can move that forward. So that was really interesting. And I suppose just so much of it was really lovely. A big thing was at the end of the service, they have a meal together, and not many people that's the evening, and not many people staying around, and they were talking about, you know, how it's hard to get people to serve, and why is that, and they were sort of talking about how a lot of the time the aim is a meal, But actually, that isn't the aim, is it? The aim is community and getting alongside one another and discipling and loving one another. And so when they changed that aim and they made it very deliberately, it's not a meal for a meal's sake. What we want to do is ask each of these teams, how can we build community at Village Church? And that transformed it. And it made me think of our parish lunches and how much we think, oh, it's parish lunch. Oh, my home group's on parish lunch. And actually, it's not about, oh, we've got to serve, oh, we've got to cook. It's about how can we as a church family become a knitted community. And it was fantastic. So I stayed for that. The food was right there, right at the back of the auditorium as soon as the service finished, which meant if you were new, you could go and straight and get that food and sit down. And then when the people came who, you're sort of eating, and then by the time people come through, because the food's at the back of the auditorium, they know it's there, they can see that people are already sitting down that don't know anyone. And actually, as a newcomer who didn't know anyone, that was much better than going through into a room and none of the new people are there because they're all already chatting to their friends, and you grab a cup of tea and you leave. Because actually sitting down and having a meal takes longer. So even if you're sitting and eating on your own, people very quickly are coming through and chatting to you and engaging with you. And you might have finished your food, but because it's a meal, you're less likely to just up and leave. And yeah, no, that was fantastic. I really, really appreciated that. And I wonder if there's some lessons that we can learn as a church family at Jesmond about how we do our meal of the month, for example. But yeah, that was really good. And then afterwards we went on for ice cream, which was really nice. It just felt really friendly and I felt really welcomed. And that was just so lovely. Really lovely. I don't know whether it's easier. It probably is easier in a smaller church because you're easier to spot if you don't know anyone. But everyone was so welcoming and that was fantastic. A lot of these ideas about rosters versus teams come from a Pastor's Heart episode that Dominic did. So I'll link that down below so you can watch that one and have a look, which was, really helpful to have a look and think through for me. And this 5Ms model, I'll see if I can get a link down below that talks a bit more about what that is and how that works. Well, let me pray for Village Church and then I'll end this vlog. Father God, I thank you so much for Village Church. I thank you for the partnership we've had with them. I thank you for Dominic and the way that he serves that church so wholeheartedly, for that vision, for it to be a biblically sound media church, and for the way that the visuals and cameras and sound and musicians and creatives are really valued and loved and appreciated in that church family. I pray that that would continue and that you would use them powerfully for your glory in the Annandale area of Sydney and beyond. In your mighty name, amen.